Welcome into Pigskin Perspectives. It is time to recap all the action that happened in week one of the NFL season, and what a weekend it was. We had some outstanding games. We had some quite terrible games, as would be expected. A lot of hopes up in some fan bases, a lot of hopes down in some fan bases. We seem to be all over the place, it seems, with this NFL week one. Seemed more unpredictable than usual, I would think. Like I said, we got some stunning results. We also had some devastating injuries that we will get into. Let's just get right into it. Let's go all the way back to Thursday. The Lions and the Chiefs open up the NFL season. The Lions come away with a 21-20 victory, even though the Chiefs were missing Travis Kelce and Chris Jones. Chris Jones' contract got figured out. He got a 1-year extension. He's coming back to play this week. Travis Kelce, bit more of a question mark. But the Lions come away with a huge victory in this game. What a way to start their season against the defending Super Bowl champions. You have all these expectations coming into the season. And you go out and win a game. Yes, asterisks are involved, but asterisks are involved in every single game of football. So you can only play who's on the field in front of you, and that's what the Lions did, and the Lions came away with the victory. So it's a huge win for them. They're at home this weekend against Seattle. Going to be another tough game probably for them, but you couldn't ask for a better start if you're a Lions fan. You get a win against the defending champs. Now expectations seem even higher now, which could become a problem, but we'll see. Even after this game, I still don't think they win the division. I think that they can make the playoffs, but I don't think they win the division. I think there is one better team in this division, and we'll talk about them later. And they're still my prediction to win the division. If you watched the NFL preview show, you know who I'm talking about, but we will get there. Moving on, we get to Sunday's action, and we have to start off with my team, the Cleveland Browns, wearing the Nick Chubb throwback jersey tonight. They go out and beat the Bengals 24-3 in what was, I don't even know how to, because it wasn't a perfect game, but it wasn't like a terrible game. This was a very good result for a Browns team that is going to need good results this year. They played the opponent to the best they could, which was the Bengals, and they come away with the victory. I'm really happy with the way the defense looked in this game. Jim Schwartz and all the new additions to the team really seem to have stepped up to where this defense should be, which is really happy to see. Nick Chubb did Nick Chubb things. Deshaun Watson looks better than he did last year, which, of course, last year we had the whole suspension, everything. I still don't think the Browns are going to win the division. This seems like a more short-term result than long-term answers, I guess I would say. For both sides, I still think the Bengals are the better team in this division, but am I saying there's not an outside chance that the Browns can somehow win this division? No, I think that there is an outside chance. I just think the Bengals are the better team. They'll look better down the stretch. And this game is kind of an anomaly. The weather was quite terrible. The Browns played that to their advantage. The Bengals couldn't really do that. Bengals are more of a high-powered throwing offense, and you can't do that in the rain and wind. The Browns love to feed Nick Chubb. And Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford comes in, looks like a pretty decent RB2. Excited to see him develop within the Browns organization and take over that Kareem Hunt role, basically. But overall, very good game for the Browns. I'm happy with the result. Moving on to another AFC North team, the Baltimore Ravens get a 25-9 victory. But of course, injuries are always the cost of something. And today, for the Ravens, it is J.K. Dobbins again. It seems like he gets injured every single year. He is out for the season with a torn ACL. which is just absolutely gut-wrenching. But the Ravens did look quite good in this game. You do have to factor in it was against the Texans. The Texans still don't look great. They're getting better. I thought C.J. Stroud had an okay game for his first game as the quarterback for the Texans. I think he could have done better, but that all comes with development, and I'm sure that we will see that throughout the year. But the Ravens come away with the victory in this one. One of the more stunning results for me was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into Minnesota and getting a 20-17 victory. I kind of wrote off the Buccaneers. I kind of thought that they would more be competing for Caleb Williams at the end of this season than they would be for a playoff spot. But they go into Minnesota and get a victory. I don't know if that means Tampa's going to be good this year or if Minnesota's not going to be great. It could be a mix of both. But I like to say I take week one results kind of with a grain of salt. You're just getting into the flow of things. Yes, the results do matter, but you also do have to kind of factor in there's a lot of rust going around with these teams. And, the week one team is not going to be the same team that it is week 18. So it's a big win for the Buccaneers. I was shocked by the result. Minnesota just couldn't seem to get anything going, which is something that they're going to need to fix, which is something I think they can get fixed. I think they have two really good wide receiver targets in Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. I don't expect them to look like they did against Tampa for much of the season. I think they'll look much better than they did. In Atlanta, the Falcons, in an NFC South battle, take a victory over the Carolina Panthers 24-10. Desmond Ridder had a very good game he started some of the games at the tail end of last year, but you'd say this is his first season knowing that he's going to be in that starting job, hopefully for all 18 weeks. Very, very good result from them. Bijan Robinson, they used that high draft pick on him because, of course, they're saying, generational running back. He looked quite good. He did get a touchdown on the day, so expecting more of that this season. Bryce Young didn't look terrible. He didn't look great. I'd say all of the quarterbacks, like the new quarterbacks, I should say, didn't look outstanding this week. Nobody really had like a breakout performance. But it's week one. Like I said, week one results are most likely not going to matter week 18. But Atlanta looked really good. I think there's still a very good shot to win the division if things play their way, just because I think the NFC South is that bad. A very interesting game in Landover, Maryland. The Washington Commanders get a 20-16 victory over the Arizona Cardinals, who are tanking. The Cardinals had a very good opportunity to win this game. I think both of these teams just aren't good. The Cardinals they're making it known that they're tanking, but they're still playing quite well. I know it was against the Commanders, but they still played quite well given, what they're putting out on the field, basically. I still don't think they're going to get many wins this year. After watching the Commanders, I don't know if they're going to get many wins this year. These are, again, some overreactions for week one, but neither team looked great in this game, and that is kind of worrying. But we'll see how that goes. One of the more entertaining games of week one, the Jaguars get a 31-21 victory over the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, Anthony Richardson for the Colts making his first start. Out of all the new quarterbacks, I would say that Anthony Richardson probably looked the best out of all of them, which is saying something because I still don't think Anthony Richardson's an outstanding talent, but who knows? He had a really good game. He did get hurt near the end there. I don't think there's going to be like any lingering effects to it, hopefully. But the Jaguars, I mean, they got the win, but they didn't look good. They didn't look convincing. Am I kind of worried about them? Yes. But I still think they're going to get the job done in the AFC South. Trevor Lawrence had a good game, not a great game, not a terrible game. Could have been much worse, could have been better. But I didn't really get a sense that either of these teams, like what either of these teams are going to be this year, given this result. Like I said, I still think the Jaguars are going to win this division just because the rest of it's not good. But, I mean, this wasn't, it was more entertaining though. This was one of the more entertaining games. Watching NFL Red Zone, it felt like they were cutting into this game every 2 minutes. So, was quite an interesting game to watch, to say the least. One of the bigger blowouts of the weekend, the San Francisco 49ers go to Pittsburgh and get a 30-7 victory against the Steelers. I think this is setting up for what both teams are going to look like this year. I think the 49ers, once again, are going to be a Super Bowl contender. But then I also think the Steelers, I think they're going to be, they're not going to be good this year, and they're going to be in a somewhat rebuilding phase, even though they can't really be because they do have a talented team, but it's not looking good for them this year. I think all of the other teams in the division are better than them right now. I'm still sure they're going to get wins within the division, but I think it's going to be a struggle year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially if this Cam Hayward injury lingers. That might become a bigger problem for them down the road. The Tennessee Titans traveled to New Orleans with Ryan Tannehill as quarterback. They lose to Derek Carr's Saints 16-15 in what was just, it was a sloppy game. It really was, and I'm going to say the same thing about the next game. Very sloppy on both sides of the ball for both teams. It was just an ugly game to watch. The Saints, they might be contenders for the South because the South is, I think all the teams might be contenders for the South because the South is that bad. I think we're going to get a 8-9 winner of that division, and they're going to host a playoff game, and everybody's going to have to enjoy it. The other ugly game of the weekend, the Raiders get a 17-16 victory over the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos, I don't know. You spent so much money on Russell Wilson, and he just doesn't look like he's where he used to be, which I think is going to become a huge problem for them. I mean, it already is, but is he an upgrade on Drew Lock? Yes, of course he is. Almost anybody's an upgrade on Drew Lock. But he's not what you give up, what was it, like 3 first-round picks and then a few seconds, something like that. He's not that kind of player, which is worrying, I would say, if you're a Broncos fan. The Broncos, like, they have the pieces. They don't have them right, though. It's like a jumbled mess right now, and they brought in Sean Payton to try to fix it. And you just got all these pieces just floating around right now, and you're trying to get one cohesive unit. I don't know if they're going to get there this year, honestly. They don't look good. The Raiders, who knows what they're doing? I don't know. Jimmy Garoppolo, he looked okay. Didn't look great, didn't look terrible. Both teams are going to be the bottom 2 teams in the West, I think, for the AFC. On Tom Brady Day in New England, the Patriots can't come out with the victory as they lose to the Philadelphia Eagles 25-20. But I think they did show signs of life that they might be able to actually compete this year. You're going up against the defending Super Bowl runners-up, I should say. They went down, I believe it was 14-0 early, maybe 13-0. They mounted the comeback. I think they tied the game. And then it kind of just flip-flopped from there. And the Patriots just ended up not having enough in the end. Am I worried about Mac Jones yet? No. I think he's going to be okay for this season. I think the hot seat starts to build up on him if they finish below 500, which as of now, I think they're going to be right around the 8 to 9 win range. So I don't think he's in huge trouble right now, but I think the more interesting person that might be in more trouble than people think is Bill Belichick. I think he's going to have to start showing at least some results coming out of this rebuild that wasn't really a rebuild. I think he's going to have to start showing a little bit more. I don't think Robert Kraft's going to pull the plug on him at any point because of what Bill's done for the organization. I just think it might be a, hey, Bill, it's time to retire type of deal. And I think he's got to show a little bit more. But it's a good start, only losing by 5 to the Eagles. They really held the Eagles in check, I would say. The Eagles didn't run wild on them. It might be because it was week 1, but I mean, still, it's a good result for the Patriots given where they could be. The Rams, another surprising result for me. I didn't think the Rams are going to be that good this year. They go out in week 1 and defeat the Seattle Seahawks 30-13 in a game that the Rams basically controlled from start to finish. I was quite shocked by that. I thought the Seahawks were going to be much better in this game. They end up not. Geno Smith looked, he looked okay. Didn't get enough done, obviously. Matthew Stafford coming off the injury looks pretty good. Given that it was a neck injury, those things can get messy and you can, fall off a cliff after a neck injury. He doesn't look that way. Looked pretty good. And the Rams, I still don't think they're going to be playoff contenders. I think there's still too many floating pieces from that Super Bowl still around that need to kind of disperse, I would say. But yeah. In the game of the weekend, it was an absolutely stunning and fun game to watch. Back and forth game from start to finish. The Miami Dolphins get a victory in LA against the Chargers 36-34. The battle of the 5th and 6th overall picks in that 2020 draft, Justin Herbert and Tua Tagovailoa. Tua comes out victorious in this one. This game really didn't change my opinion on either teams. I still think both of them are going to be around that 9 to 12 win range probably. Probably more than 9 to 10 range than the 11 to 12 range. Both teams are quite entertaining to watch. I think they both have good foundations that need to end up somewhere this year, basically, aka the playoffs. I think they need to compete in the playoffs and look good in a game to, show improvement, I guess. I like both of these teams this year. Given one of the results later down here, I'm sure you can guess which one. The Dolphins might win the division. They might win the division. We'll get into that in a minute. The Packers and the Bears face off in the NFL's oldest rivalry once again, and the Packers once again come away victorious, 38-20. And Jordan Love's first. Yes, he started games when Aaron Rodgers was injured. Also kind of foreshadowing there. But this was his first game with this offense being focused around him. He looked phenomenal. Looked like he's been in this league for a few years, which technically he has. I should say it looks like he's been starting in this league for a few years. I'm really happy with that receiving core that they have built around him. The defense looks quite good. I know it's the Bears, but the Packers defense looks quite good and can win them games this year. And I think Jordan Love is going to be a really good quarterback. I think he's going to really show out this year. And I still think they have a really good shot at winning the division, especially over the Lions. I think they're better than them at this moment. The Bears, I said, people are really high on them. I'm not expecting much. I still think they finished fourth in the division. You got to remember this team won 3 games last year, so I'm still expecting them to be quite bad this year. But for Packers fans, it's always great getting a win against your biggest rival, obviously. In the Sunday night game, it was a snooze fest because it was so one-sided. The Cowboys come away with a 40-0 victory at MetLife Stadium in the pouring rain. This was you can categorize this under the ugly games also, because the Giants just looked so out of it. They couldn't get anything going, obviously. Daniel Jones barely had any time to do anything before, the Cowboys defensive line was after him. Am I worried about the Giants right now? Kind of. Am I buying into the Cowboys right now after a 40-0 victory against the Jets? No. I still think they're not going to be good this year. I think this is Mike McCarthy's last year there. And yeah, I didn't really take anything away from it except that the Giants just they sleepwalked through that game, and it really showed. They didn't look good. They looked unprepared, which could be a problem. And the Cowboys took advantage of that. So all credit to the Cowboys with that. And then moving on to the Monday night game, the Jets get the overtime victory 22-16 over the Buffalo Bills. But obviously the biggest story coming out of this game, it's Aaron Rodgers tearing his Achilles on his 4th play as a New York Jet, and he is now out for the season. That has obviously completely changed the trajectory of the Jets season, which it sucks for the Jets, because this is something that would happen to the Jets organization, because it's the Jets. Only 4 snaps into his career as a Jet, and he's done for the season. And people are saying he might be done for his career. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think he wants to go out that way. The player Aaron Rodgers is, I think he loves the game too much to not have that be his lasting memory as his last play, basically tearing his Achilles, which you could see on TV, which was just very sad to watch. We had the punt return in overtime to get the victory for the Jets. There was a missed block in the back or something like that, or a clipping call. I didn't like that they brought that up on the broadcast, because that's just not something you do. Just like the Mike Tirico with the Lions win with an asterisk. But I don't like that. You just don't do that during a broadcast. It may be true, but you don't do that during a broadcast. We watched the reinvention of Zach Wilson, who looked completely terrible in the first half. It looked like he was a backup QB, which he was. The second half, he looked more comfortable. He led the comeback to get the Jets. They got a lead with less than a minute left, and then, of course, the Bills went down the field. Tyler Bass kicks a field goal that doinks off the goalpost and in to send us to overtime. And then the Bills go 3-and-out. They punt, and the punt return for the touchdown ends the game. But even though this was a win for the Jets, I think expectations have to be massively lowered now that Aaron Rodgers is out for the season. I know I had them finishing second in the division to the Bills over. I think I had the Bills at 11-6 and the Jets at 10-7. The Bills didn't look good either, which is why I think this has opened the door for the Dolphins to win this division. Because Josh Allen he didn't look great. I know it's week 1, but just didn't look great in this game. I'm sure that he'll look better later on in the season, but if this continues, that's kind of worrying for the Bills, I would say, because the offense is built around him, and if he can't do exactly what this offense is supposed to do, then this is just going to be an absolute disaster. One of the big things coming out of this game is that it was the largest or the most viewed Monday Night Football game in ESPN's history, because ESPN's only had the rights to Monday Night Football since 2006, I believe. That's when it switched over from ABC to ESPN, and it became an ESPN exclusive. Drew 22.6 million. So obviously, like, people were tuning in to see Aaron Rodgers in his debut, and 4 snaps into it, he's done for the season. Given that, winners and losers for the week, I guess I can do that. I'll give you one winner and one loser. I'll start with loser because we just mentioned them. It's the Jets. I feel bad because that was such a Jets thing to happen, and it's so sad because their fan base truly is one of the better fan bases in the NFL, and they don't deserve that. But the winner, I'm going with the fans, because we got football back. We had a great weekend slate. It was entertaining start to finish, and just what a great weekend of football it was, both college and pro. So given that it's going to be it for Pigskin Perspectives tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you stumble across this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you really enjoyed it, you can spread the word about this channel. We do these videos constantly. Pigskin Perspectives will be back on Thursday. Back of the Net will be back on Friday as the international break ends. And then on Saturday, it should be a top of the perch, a Tottenham review of their game against Sheffield United. Sunday will be another Pigskin Perspectives recapping your college football from Saturday. And then we get it all going again. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you back very soon for another episode of Pigskin Perspectives.